We're going to be talking about how to 10x your pipeline using this one thing. I didn't come up with the title. This is more of a marketing title. Hopefully it's sexy enough that we get some people stuck in the room here. I'm sure this is not your first conference. It's not my first conference, but I did want to tell you that you're not alone in trying to solve the biggest challenge in sales, which is building pipeline. And no matter what your manager says, how easy it is to build or how you need to do more, building pipeline is tough, but I tell you, you got to own it. You don't need marketing to build pipeline. You don't need sales to build pipeline. You can do it yourself, and today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about owning your pipeline. This is me owning whoever that is on the bottom right there. Speaking of owning it, this is a true story. I'm hanging out with David Delaney last night, and David, I got to tell, he needs to be honest with himself. David, own it. Own it, David. Give him a round of applause. Give him a round of applause. That seriously took me like 35 minutes in whatever those tools are to do. That looks legitimately real. It is real. Anyways, thank you, David. He's like, what the heck? That has nothing to do with this presentation. Okay, I'm Gabe Larson. I'm the Vice President of Growth at InsideSales.com. InsideSales.com offers a sales cadence tool with artificial intelligence. Think of it like cadence with an opinion. Ways for sales, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that. I actually, what most people don't know, I do oversee marketing and business development, but I started as a sales development rep at InsideSales.com a long time ago. This was our website back when we were a dialer company. For those of you who knew us back then, we just offered a power dialer tool. Look at that. That is a killer website. Literally killer. I don't know if we got anything converted on that. But I started as a sales development rep. My first month in the job, the CEO came up to me and said, "You're fired because you don't know what you're doing," which thankfully I said, "Give me another chance. I know I can do this. I can make it, I promise." I went on. I've been at Inside Sales for a long time. I did leave for a while, but Inside Sales, for those of you who don't know, we've had actually some ups and downs. At one point, we actually almost closed our doors. The bank pulled our credit line. Management went 3 months without pay. The CEO literally went and got a part-time job just to make payroll. But we ended up coming out of it. And we ended up experiencing 100% year-over-year growth for 4 years. We had this actually just happen. Microsoft invested $35 million in a strategic partnership with InsideSales.com to take Cadence to Microsoft Dynamics, the only platform. Salesforce has other tools. Microsoft doesn't. We've been on the Forbes 100 list. We've been on the Forbes Top 50 list. And I want to talk to you about today some of the things we've learned to experience hyper growth, and I want to see if I can take that through you first. One of the big things is this concept of being a playmaker. The biggest thing that I think has helped us break the barrier for growth is this concept of being a playmaker. The thing that playmakers do better than anybody else is they build plays. Now, plays are strategic prospecting initiatives to help you crush your quota. And it actually does PLAYS. Plays have purposes. They don't just randomly shoot from the hip. Too many SDRs just shooting from the hip. They have a targeted list. It's not just spraying and praying. They have assets. Great, if you get one thing from me today, great sales development teams, they don't just get, they give. You have got to give before you get. And that's the foundation of great plays. Next is it's all about results and iterating. And lastly, it's about a cadence and a sequence. Too much talk about cadence and sequences, not enough talk about the messaging and the power within a cadence or sequence. I want to take you through 3 plays that have just killed it for us over the last 12 months and see if it's something that you can put into your own playbook. So the first is this, it's called the social fight play. And you can see kind of how we broke it down here, our assets, the sequence that we did, et cetera, and we'll talk about that. I want to start, though, first with this research. If you haven't seen our State of Sales Development Research Report, largest study ever on sales development, 1,200 companies filled out surveys to tell us about how they build, operate their sales development teams. One of the highlights in this study was how effective are LinkedIn activities? Which one's most effective? Anything jump out at you on this? Kent, anything jump out at you? Does anybody see that? Kevin, what do you think of that?
I believe it.
Using LinkedIn video, only 1% of companies said they think that's effective. Do you know what I see when I see that?
Opportunity.
That's opportunity. That is absolute opportunity. And if anybody is in my network for LinkedIn, I spam the shit out of you guys. I'm sorry. I'm on LinkedIn video all the time, and I want to show you how we've turned it into revenue. Did anybody see this? If you didn't see it, you should have, because it was a total masterpiece of sales development and marketing working together. Social selling versus cold calling, the great debate from InsideSales.com. Mario Martinez versus Gabe Larson. I want to play this quick clip if you didn't see it. This is worth it. It's only 30 seconds.
Cold calling is not dead.
Gabe? Wrong. You're wrong.
You and your social garbage.
That's me. That is me. So if you didn't see that online, it was quite the social interaction. We actually ended up having over 500,000 interactions, both views on LinkedIn videos, likes and comments, and it turned into somewhat of a viral piece. Was it staged or was it not staged? I'm not going to tell you that. It's none of your business, actually. What's important is that me and Mario both did 3 LinkedIn videos, and we had over 500,000 engagements. Now, a lot of people are like, Gabe, we're not marketers. Why are you telling us this? You want me to just go on LinkedIn and do a bunch of random brand stuff? No, I want you to see if you can monetize it. And this is what we do to monetize it, and I do it on every LinkedIn video. So this is one of my videos. You can see here I had 37,000 views, 175 comments, and 406 likes. Now, with a little tool called LinkedIn Helper, and there's some good and bad things about LinkedIn Helper, just in case you're wondering. Kelly's laughing because we talked about it last night. But I can actually scrape everybody who commented and liked on that. I scrape it, I append it, and my sales development team just starts to call it. We do that with every single LinkedIn video I do. That campaign, that play, got us 28 opportunities, 880,000 in pipeline in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, using LinkedIn video, exporting everybody who engaged with my video, running a play, a sequence against that video, and then turning it into pipeline. That's the magic of LinkedIn video. And it's a play, I almost hate to tell you because we're just rolling on this one. Because they're plays that fundamentally work. All right, number 2, this is such a great one. The podcast play. If you're not doing a podcast, shame on you. Audio with Amazon, there's so much power in this. I've been doing a podcast for a couple years, but I want to talk to you about the reason I do a podcast. One is because I have a huge ego, but there is another reason, and I promise I'll get into it here in just a second. So, 12.3% of sales development reps' time is spent researching. Does any mathematicians in here, what does that translate to per week? 12.3, how many hours? 5? Thank you. Who said 8? You were wrong. It is, it's 5 hours. Guys, 5 hours a week on researching. That's actually a lot. Now, there are a lot of automated tools that are bringing researching to us, but one of the debates you and your sales development team have to decide, there's 2 ways to personalize. One is around the persona, and one is around the person. You want to trim your research down, you're going to focus more around personalizing on the persona, and I want to walk you through how we cut down our research but still maximize our pipeline. And this is how we do it right here. So I've been running the Sales Secret podcast for about 18 months. We have 215 episodes, 20,000 listeners a month. I say that bragging, but here's the reason I'm bragging. Like I said, I do have an ego, but we use this purely as a pipeline generation tool. So what my reps do, and this is just a real example. This guy's name is Alec Hudsick. He's the director of inside sales at, I don't know how to say that. Now this is actually a customer of outreach. What my team wanted to do is go find customers of one of our competitors and then see if we could attack them. with our messaging. The problem was they already were using a competitive tool, so a lot of them didn't want to listen to us. But guess what? When I approach a guy like Alex and I say, hey, we don't mention our Cadence tool. We just say, we want you, you're a sales leader. We want you to be a guest on our Sales Secret podcast. 20,000 listeners a month, 215 episodes. We've had T-Mobile and CenturyLink. We've had some big people on there. What do you think Alex says? He absolutely agrees to it. I'm at a 53% response rate using the podcast play. This is actually what happened with Alex. Hey, I was glancing at your LinkedIn profile and thought you'd make a perfect guest for my sales leadership podcast. Any interest? Hey, Gabe, thanks for reaching out. Now, truthfully, we haven't sold Alex, but the concept is we got the conversation. We haven't sold him yet. I saw that. We haven't sold him yet. But we got the conversation. We got the appointment. And guess what happens when he gets on the podcast? What's the first thing I do? The Sales Secrets podcast is sponsored by InsideSales.com. Cadence with artificial intelligence. I give a little bit of an overview. We build a relationship. It's fantastic. It is fantastic. And right now we're seeing a 53% response rate on my BD reps just setting up podcast invitations for me to do. It's another play that's not so much, and again, I got to get this across to you. It doesn't matter how many calls and emails. Yeah, it's 3, 4 phone calls. What matters is we're giving value to them before we're getting value back from them. The podcast play. Okay, you can see that here. We've actually had 71 opportunities, 2.4 million in pipeline since January. And again, you'll notice the sequence. Oftentimes we'll start with a LinkedIn piece. We go email Tuesday, Thursday, and then we kind of finish it with some activities. But it's less about the cadence and more about the message. Okay, number 3 is what we call the smoking gun play. Smoking gun, this is an interesting one. So we've done a bunch of research on sales cadence. This was part of that state of sales development. If you haven't seen it, you ought to. Sales reps believe they do 15.4 touches per outbound cadence or sequence. And you can see how it's broken down. They believe they do 4.7 phone calls, 2.9 voice messages, 0.7 text, 4.6 email, 1.8 LinkedIn, and 0.8 mailers. That's what sales development reps believe they do on an outbound sequence. The question is, what do they actually do? Now, we got a big data set. We believe we have the biggest data set in the world, trillions of sales points we use for our AI engine. What do you think, Jeremy? 4? What do I got here? 6, 1.7. Kevin, what are you thinking? He's like, I'm thinking about lunch, actually. Gabe, will you get this done? 4? Number happens to be 3.04 touches per contact, according to our big data set. 3.04. You're a bunch of liars. That's what you are. You're a big bunch of liars. Okay, so now I know what they believe they do, and now I know what they do. The question is, how many should you do? Does it matter? What do you think? How many should you do? What's the optimal number of touches in an outbound cadence? And one of the big differences, guys, is inbound cadence. If I'm following up on inbound leads from the data versus going cold to somebody, completely different best practices, completely different research. This is really interesting. When we look at the data, generally speaking, you shouldn't do more than 7 touches on an outbound cadence. But there's a big asterisk next to that. Now, that's different than any of the pundits you'll hear out there. The problem is, I'm just the messenger. I'm just talking about what the data says, not what I've experienced, just what a couple billion data points say. This is the interesting point, though. There is an asterisk next to what is the optimal number of touches, and let me see if I can kind of show you what this looks like. This is part of our AI engine, and I got to kind of break it down for you just so you can kind of see it here. A is basically a grade. It's just using a predictive algorithm to score your accounts and contacts to determine who is most likely to buy from you. So A being the best here and D being the worst. And then this is the number of touches across here in your outbound cadence. Now, what do you notice? What do you notice? Well, if you're looking at it, green means good, red means bad. What this means is, if I use predictive algorithms to score your leads or your contacts, A leads, truthfully, the dollar value of each additional touch is displayed here. I can go all the way up to 10, I can go to like 10 touches and I'm still seeing a dollar value that means I should continue doing A leads. But notice what I do here. It's not even worth my time. Look at that. 97 cents. If I do one touch on a D lead, it's worth 97 cents to me. If I do one touch on an A lead, it's worth $16 to me. What that means is all the things you've heard about Cadence, you should do it 7 times or 6 times. It's hogwash. What it means is you have to see what are your best leads, your best contacts, and you need to be spending way more time on that because that's where the gold is. Go to the gold. Okay, now, the way we turn this into value, everybody wants to know their cadence. Everybody wants to know what's good and bad. So we created with the sales development team something we call a cadence audit, where we actually study your cadence to determine how good you are, and we benchmark you against thousands of other companies to determine if your cadence is good or bad. And you can kind of see the report here. It's funny, actually. We ran this for somebody. So what my sales development reps team do is we'll take a targeted account list, and we'll reach out to a bunch of sales leaders, and we'll say, hey, we just ran an audit on your cadence. And you got a C. Can I get back on that? You got a C minus. Would you like to talk about? It's a $750 value. How many people respond to that? They love it because I'm giving them value, and my sales development reps have a completely different conversation. We actually did this literally just a month ago. I get on the phone to review this report with one of the sales leaders, and he's like, Gabe, this can't be true. I don't believe these numbers. They can't be right. I've talked to this person. I've looked at this lead. Well, come to find out, this guy gets fired. This sales rep gets fired because of our little report. He had been calling his girlfriend, logging it in Salesforce, and then having an extended amount of talk time. So when the leader looked at the lead, he saw that there'd been a lot of calls to the wrong number. And the talk time was really long to the wrong person. So he totally got fired. Not that I want you to be fired, but my point is this offer works extremely well because we give value to sales leaders before we ask value back. We've actually done 138 opportunities since January, 5.1 million in pipeline, and you can kind of see how the play breaks down as such. So the big thing that has turned things around for inside sales is this concept of being a playmaker. We don't focus on cadence and sequences. I don't care if it's 4 phone calls. What I care about is the quality of it. What are you giving before you're asking for it back? Or your sales development rep's just saying, hey, I saw you had 2 dogs on Twitter. Can I get 15 minutes of your time? Can I get 15 minutes? No. With these plays, we did an assessment of your cadence, and we want to review that with you. It's value to you. I give you something before I get it. So I'd love for you to actually experience one of these plays. If you go to responseaudit.com, you can experience one of the InsideSales.com plays. We typically charge $725 for it, but it is a value offer we want to give to you. We want you to be able to test your sales cadence and see how good you are in comparison with some of your people. This is actually a client we did it with. This was their cadence when we started with them. You can see phone and email, and this is focusing on the response time on different leads that we audited. You got a request for demo, a request for pricing, a contact to us. Just by making this visible in under 3 months, they went from 156-minute response time on their leads to 11 minutes, just being able to kind of watch that cadence and follow through on that strategy. So again, if you want that, you go to leadresponseaudit.com and you can actually test your cadence. Thank you so much.